The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome to the first Trump era bonus show. A lot of people asking me, did I end up watching the inauguration, part of it, all of it? I ended up watching everything up to President Trump. Seems weird to even say it. Feels very, very weird. I watched up until President Trump signed a variety of different orders and whatnot at a desk with kids around him. And at that point, I tuned out. I didn't see any of the parade other than a few things I saw in passing when I was out and saw that some restaurants had it on. Didn't watch any of the inaugural balls or anything like that. I watched the morning stuff up to and including Trump signing, and then I just ended it.
Yeah, I tuned in about 9 o'clock, which is around the time that they're getting out of the church service,
Yeah.
and then they show up to the White House.
Ugh.
That was a terrible image to see, I guess, Obama greeting Trump at the White House, and then later to see Obama flying away.
I saw a lot of commentary about Michelle Obama just looking sick to her stomach about what was going on. When I was watching it, I had a little bit of that sense. And then afterwards, when you see very specific still images and stuff like that, yeah, she did look sick to her stomach. But sometimes those stills aren't completely representative of everything that was going on. She certainly seemed like she was handling it the least well of everybody.
She really was rolling her eyes a lot, too. And one thing that struck me was that when Trump and Melania showed up at the White House, they had some sort of gift for Michelle, and it really just broke protocol. They didn't know whether to shake hands or hug, and that seems like a very small thing. But the eyes of the world are on you, and you should kind of be prepared for that.
Well, the Obamas, I guess, started that tradition by bringing a gift to the Bushes when President Obama was elected. But I don't remember the awkwardness of the entire, like, who holds it and what do we do and the entire thing. That was a really weird moment. But the entire thing was just frankly vile. I mean, I genuinely felt depressed and slightly sick to my stomach most of Friday.
And then when you later on, when they're doing the whole thing at the Capitol itself, the actual inauguration part, you kept going back and forth between seeing Trump's shell-shocked face, kind of a blank face, not really knowing what to do, and then you'd go back to Obama, and he really seems esteemed, kind of Lincoln-esque.
Yeah.
That was a really interesting split screen.
The behavior and demeanor of Trump during the inauguration helped me to see, aside from political disagreements that we've all had with President Obama during his 8 years, just the difference of caliber in terms of the people between Donald Trump and Barack Obama. That's what I really came away with.
Yeah, and maybe, I mean, that just could be his resting face, and you don't want to make fun of that too much.
Oh,
but
Trump's,
it really just demonstrates very little intellectual curiosity.
Oh my God! And as I mentioned on the show today, the sentence structure of Trump's speech. I mean, he can't seem to put together sort of like subordinate clauses and anything beyond the simplest sentence structure out there. And I say it like it's a bad thing, and then other people will say, David, that's why he won, because he was able to appeal to the lowest common denominator, for lack of a better term, not as from a value point of view, but just in terms of education level, because he used simple language. That may be, but do we want someone who uses simple language, or do we want someone that we're sure can think deeply about complex issues? And Trump hasn't demonstrated that he can do that.
Yeah, I think that issue has already been litigated too, because I don't think he could come out there during the inauguration speech and give this long, poetic, speech to everyone.
Yeah. So you're saying even if he could do it in terms of his language skills,
he wouldn't pull it off.
He wouldn't be able to pull it off from a political perspective because it's just not what it's not what he won on, essentially.
He may not even be able to pronounce the words.
Well, yeah, I think that we could almost be sure of. I was generally, I did my rant on the show about how I was concerned about a lot of the identity politics stuff at the Trump rallies, anti-Trump rallies. Overall, though, I'm very pleased about the turnout. I mean, I think it's good that people are engaged. My skepticism is to go a little more deeply into what I talked about on the regular show. My skepticism is that the momentum will continue.
Yeah, I mean, I've been kind of critical of these protests the whole way because, I mean, I understand that people aren't saying, well, we're not trying to stop Trump from being president. We're not trying to take him out of office.
Yeah.
But we're just trying to make clear the point that we're not with him from day one. And I guess I get that, but I think that's already kind of evident.
My concern is that, the post-election, the November 9th protests and November 10th protests were not really focused on strategy. And only to a slight degree were the protests over this weekend slightly focused on strategy. By and large, they still weren't. And I'm now reading, there's an article saying that there's another set of anti-Trump marches and rallies planned for April 15th. And the meaning there, that's tax day, the day taxes are due. The idea there is push Trump to release the tax returns. I genuinely am skeptical that by April 15th, there will still be that level of engagement where you are going to see continuing pushes for the tax returns. I support protests. I wish more people had voted and we weren't in this in the first place, but I really am concerned about keeping momentum going because the hard work is about to start. We've had record protests, but we haven't actually done anything yet that's going to change the direction, the trajectory that would be the trajectory unimpeded of Donald Trump. And that's what the focus needs to be on. And I plan to talk about that on the regular show, what we should do.
Yeah, I think releasing the tax returns is one of the things we should really kind of focus in on because it's way too early to start looking towards the next election. I think most of the American public is sick of that, especially after 2016. So to start speaking about 2020, even though that does matter, it's just not where we should set our eyes on.
No, but I think it's perfectly fair to say that by April, we could be working on the 2017 governor's races that are going on.
Yeah, that's true.
And a few months after that, I think certainly by the fall of this year, you could start working on next fall's midterms. I mean, by this fall, we will only be a year away from the opportunity to take the House and Senate away from Republicans. That's what we need to be working on. We need to be working in that way. We need to be making phone calls. And I hope that my critiques of the marches don't come off as dismissive in any way, but I still am just not seeing the commitment to activism. It's great to get this number of people to show up, but that doesn't actually change anything. And I hope that we can see that. We'll do what we can here on the show. And later this week, we're going to have not like a long form piece, but I'm going to devote a little bit of time to what I believe progressives should actually be focusing on. Okay, we're scheduled to interview Richard Spencer. Richard Spencer is the alt-right neo-Nazi who has made huge headlines over the last several months. We played his Hail Trump speech at the National Policy Institute. He was punched in the face over the weekend during an interview at an inauguration-related event or protest. And when I announced on Twitter that I would be interviewing Richard Spencer, and I believe it's going to happen, it might not, it hasn't happened yet, but my sense is he wants to do it. A lot of people started slamming me saying, oh, you're giving a platform to bad ideas. You should no platform him. I know it's been a little while since we did one of these types of interviews, like with the God Hates Fags Westboro Baptist Church or that type of thing. My policy has never been to pretend that these ideas don't exist. My policy has been, if you're willing to have a conversation with me, let's figure out where you got these ideas, because I think extremism, if we can understand what the catalysts for extremism are, we can start to understand how to prevent these ideas from existing in the first place and seeming like good ideas to people. And number two, let's explore how you even came to justify these ideas in your mind, sort of an epistemology conversation. That's always been what I do. And I know some people will say you're giving a voice to people who should be voiceless. We've never done that. And so I push back against the critiques on Twitter.
Especially because I think giving a voice and a platform to someone would mean that you're just allowing them to speak uncriticized for 10, 12, 15 minutes, whatever it is. But I mean, there's going to be a back and forth there, and we're going to see his views challenged. And I think that's what the point of an adversarial interview is. Yeah,
I'm not going to say, talk for 12 minutes about your views, and then I'll just sit here and listen and then pretend like what you said is just as valid as, ideas of inclusiveness and non-discrimination. That's not going to be it. And I'd be curious to hear from people in the bonus show audience what they think about this. Not everybody watches the interviews we do. That's another thing, which is some people just like the commentary segments and don't watch interviews. Other people say, I don't care so much for a lot of the political stuff, but I like the interviews that you do. So the idea is there's something for everybody. My strategy has never been no platform. Let's have a conversation, see how you came up with these ideas, and go from there. Okay, a few things to mention about things upcoming on the show. We are working on some additional long-form pieces, like the one today about Donald Trump and his Twitter account. If you have an issue that you want us to look into in more detail for a 12, 14, 16, 18-minute piece that would be on the regular show in place of an interview, let me know. And I'm open. We've covered so many different things, everything from the alt-right to myths and facts around undocumented immigration. We did an expose of Reza Aslan. Today we had the Trump Twitter story. I'm really open to doing lots of different things with that segment. I don't know if you have stuff that you'd be interested in looking at.
I would have to come up with a list. The wage gap one that was done quite a few months ago, that was one of the most fantastic pieces I've seen because
I forgot about
it doesn't just parrot the talking points from
either
liberals
side
and conservatives. It really digs deep into the issue and comes up with a surprising conclusion to many.
Yeah, lots of people didn't like that because the people who were committed to 77 cents on the dollar thought we were lying, and the people who were committed to there's no wage gap altogether thought we were lying or distorting. And as is often the case, the truth is not exactly what either side will tell you. It's often closer to what one side will tell you than the other, but it's usually not exactly on one side or the other. So send in your thoughts. Thanks to all of the new members who, this is their first bonus show since the inauguration of Donald Trump because they signed up over the weekend with the membership special. Welcome to everybody. We are going to need your support. This is such a key time, and we'll be here working.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.